Good Monday morning and happy Labor Day. Thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Right now, several people waking up to smashed out windows on their cars after overnight break-ins. Police say this is the scene in neighborhoods along 35W just north of the airport. This video coming in from East 53rd Street near Shoreview Avenue. We have reached out to MPD for more information, but we have not heard back. Turning to our top story this morning, Minneapolis is still reeling after last week's deadly mass shooting at Annunciation Church. This latest attack moving people to take action against gun violence. Michelle Beck is outside of the church as advocates head to the state capitol for a big rally.
Well, hey there, we've seen so many youth come together and bring this memorial outside Annunciation Church to life. Well, today, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're going to see many more youth come together. They're going to be rallying at the Capitol. The Minnesota teen activist says it'll be taking a stand against gun violence. Specifically, the group is in part calling for a special session to ban assault weapons. A source tells KARE 11 Governor Walz is, in fact, making calls to lawmakers to bring them back for a possible special session. The governor writes it is time to take serious action at the state capitol to address gun violence. We're also hearing this again in national conversations, pushes for tougher gun restrictions and resources for mental health.
One is to make sure that we are getting rid of assault weapons in our community. Two, that we are addressing mental health issues if there are some.
Clearly, this young man was crying out for help. Why was no one hearing him? Why was no one listening? It really is a tragedy, and that's the part that we need to know is why wasn't this identified?
Yeah, so we talked about calls for change from state and national leaders. Well, come tomorrow, local leaders, specifically the Twin Cities mayors, will be calling to change a state law that bans gun reforms at the city level. Back to you.
Michelle, thank you. Meantime, we're learning Weston Halsney, a 10-year-old boy who shared the story of his friend jumping on top of him to save him during the shooting, will need surgery. In that first interview with Weston, he described gunpowder on his neck, but it turns out it is much more serious.
Turns out it wasn't gunpowder, it's a bullet fragment.
Yes, I think the bullet just maybe whizzed by his neck. So it entered and the bullet stopped right at his carotid artery. So just ran out of momentum just in time.
Overseas, Pope Leo is speaking out against gun violence, telling followers in St. Peter's Square the, quote, pandemic of arms needs to end. The Pope, speaking in English, denounced the attack at Annunciation Church and the, quote, logic of weapons fueling wars around the world.
Our prayers for the victims of the tragic shooting during a school mass in the American state of Minnesota. We include in our prayers the countless children killed and injured every day around the world. Let us plead God to stop the pandemic of arms, large and small, which infects our world.
Now, Leo's predecessor, Pope Francis, has long rallied against the weapons industry. Pope Francis called gun manufacturers, quote, merchants of death. Starting tomorrow, the St. Paul Police Department is offering an officer presence outside of every public and private school within the city. The department says the move is to help bolster a sense of safety and security following the Annunciation shooting last week. Now, schools must opt into this. Meanwhile, Bloomington Police Chief Booker Hodges offered a similar message of support as students head back to school in that city. He says the department will continue to work with schools to prepare in case something happens. Chief Hodges went on to address the kids in his district, wishing them a safe school year, reminding them to take care of each other. In Minneapolis, there is now a neighborhood resource center at Lyndhurst Park for people to get support following the Annunciation shooting. It's going to be open today from 10:30 to 4 and then 10:30 to 2:30 tomorrow. The city says it'll announce more hours and locations for the rest of the week. The center will include mental health, spiritual, and victim care, as well as therapy animals and games and toys for children. Right now, a growing memorial surrounds Annunciation Catholic Church in South Minneapolis. Thousands of flowers, messages, and toys, and messages written in chalk can be found on everything from the sidewalks to the boarded up windows the suspect shot through. Father Leonard Andre with St. Therese of Deep Haven visited Sunday and pointed out the Holy Family statue outside of the church. The suspect shot through the heart of Mary and Joseph's staff. Lana B. became emotional seeing it.
When you come over here, that's where you like really feel it, and that's why I'm sorry. That's what I really felt it down here. It's like really sad and devastating for the kids. And it's like, imagine if that's your kid, or if that's your sister or brother. And that's how I feel right now.
Now, we still don't know when Annunciation students will return to the school or when the church itself will reopen, but the community had their first Mass together in the school's auditorium yesterday morning. We've been covering the Annunciation shooting since it broke last week, and we're following any updates every day. Make sure you stick with us on KARE 11 and KARE 11 Plus for the latest on the Annunciation mass shooting. We are following breaking news from overnight in Afghanistan, where a 6.0 magnitude earthquake has killed at least 800 people, injuring hundreds more. The Taliban government says it hit a region where many homes are mud, brick, and wood, destroying entire villages. Since the initial quake, at least 5 aftershocks ranging from 4.5 magnitude to 5.2 magnitude have hit the area. In October of 2023, an earthquake in the same area killed at least 2,400 people. We have new details this morning on a deadly mass shooting in Minneapolis that happened a day before the shooting at Annunciation. And tomorrow, 2 people will be in court facing charges as believed accomplices. Charging documents say Tiffany Martindale and Ryan Quinn were in a car that the shooter reportedly arrived and left the scene in. Prosecutors say Quinn told police he had picked someone up he knew as Bino. When they got to 29th and Clinton, he says Bino had him circle the block, then told him to stop. That's when police say he got out of the car and shot into the intersection, killing 1 man and injuring 6 others. Police arrested the 2 at Quinn's home after he says they dropped Bino off in Minneapolis' north side. Police haven't said who Bino is or if he's been arrested. Today marks 1 year since that tragic DWI crash at Park Tavern in St. Louis Park that killed 2 people and injured several more. The driver, Stephen Bailey, pled guilty and was sentenced to 30 years earlier this summer. The crash also prompted stricter consequences for repeat DWI offenders. A look from Chicago this morning, where a major immigration enforcement push from the White House is set to begin. That's despite local and state officials in Illinois pushing back on those plans. John Lawrence has details.
There's a political tempest blowing in the Windy City.
Well, we've already had ongoing operations with ICE in Chicago and throughout Illinois and other states, making sure that we're upholding our laws. But we do intend to add more resources to those operations.
President Donald Trump has issued fair warning to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, saying in a social media post to address the crime in Chicago, or the federal government will take charge.
Chicago apparently is living rent-free in his head, even though on other days he'll talk about Baltimore, he'll talk about New York. Notice he never talks about where the most violent crime is occurring, which is in red states.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is pushing back at the president, signing an executive order this weekend that resists the administration's planned crackdown.
This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement.
Sources say the operation in Chicago could start within the next few days and may include a surge of federal agents and the National Guard.
President Trump has a mandate to have strong immigration enforcement. That is one of the main things that got him elected, and now we're seeing it's playing out. I believe ultimately the American people are on his side.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
In today's Communities at KARE, we're highlighting a special dress on display at the Minnesota State Fair, raising awareness for the murdered, missing Indigenous relatives. Photojournalist Adam Wicker learned more.
Bonjour, I'm Anita Lovelace. Iwetinekwe is my Indian given name. It means North Wind Woman in Ojibwe. I've been sewing my whole life, and I'm old. No. Something just told me I had to make this because missing murdered Indigenous relatives is an ongoing epidemic. Indigenous people go missing every day. Indigenous women go missing about 20 times more than other races. I have 3 family members on the sleeve. My daughter has 4 family members on the sleeve. Her grandmother is on here. This dress, it's raising awareness. It meant something for somebody to take the time to remember their loved ones and put them on this dress. It's a community-made dress. All the handprints are made by community members. There was a lot of tears shed during this because I wanted to put a face to every single name. It's becoming a bigger deal now because people are speaking up. Spirits can see red, and the red handprint means no more silence. I don't know the journey of this dress, where it's going to go to. It will be danced in a couple of times to lock in the medicines and get the blessings and to honor the missing, murdered Indigenous relatives.
And thank you to Adam for sharing her story. Anita says she's up for this year's People's Choice Award. The dress is located in the Fine Arts Building. Stick with us, more news and weather coming up after the break.